Hey guys, what's up? Unrested here, back with another Walk and Talk JFAQ, the show that everybody thought was going to go away. I don't know why. And I've got a mic hooked up this time, so hopefully the sound is a tad better. Although walking while you have a mic still doesn't give you the loudest sound, so I'm going to try and up it in post. Anyway guys, one of the most recent J-News I did, I mentioned about the death penalty in Japan, and that's where my newest JFAQ came from. A lot of people hit me up, they said, "Oh my God, Scott, I had no idea Japan has a death penalty," which, as an American, I'm not a big fan of the death penalty, but my country does have it. And so coming to Japan and finding out Japan have it is not the biggest surprise to me because I've grown up with it, heard about it. Except I think I want to clarify the fact that Japan's death penalty is quite a bit different from America. Well, first off, in America, I don't know if you know, but in almost every state throughout America, usually there's a different way to do an execution. There's everything from lethal injection. I believe some still even have a firing squad. I think some states still hang. Maybe they don't do hanging anymore. Electric chair, I think Florida has gotten rid of the electric chair because it used to catch people on fire and was considered inhumane. But they did have the electric chair for a while. Well, Japan only has hanging. So as a little bit of advice, this is just kind of a side note. If you are an English teacher in Japan, don't play the game Hangman. Drawing an effigy of the death penalty is, maybe not the best teaching material for 3- and 4-year-olds. Hanging in Japan is the way that they go about executing someone. And in America, when we execute someone, usually they stay on death row for quite some time. And if you're unfamiliar with what death row is pretty much the section or the portion of the prison that has people awaiting the death penalty. And in Japan, they don't have that actually. They don't have a death row. And then when your death sentence comes, you get no warning. Like, you find out the next day that you will be executed. I feel like that's more harsh, and I understand this. Some viewers are going to say, "Scott, why should we be humane to these people? They were never humane themselves." Well, I agree and I disagree. I mean, should we lower ourselves to their level? Should we, become the killer? It's a big struggle morally, ethically. Personally, my own belief of why I think the entire death penalty system sucks in America is because a lot of people don't know this, but I actually had to argue it in debate class one time, and I found out that taxpayers pay an insane amount of money to keep someone on death row rather than if they just paid for them to live every single day of their life in prison. You actually end up costing the taxpayers a ton more money to put people on death row. And I feel like no matter what we think about killing a homicidal maniac or putting to death someone who's a child rapist, which I can understand, I feel like that shouldn't come out of our taxpayers' money. Why should we be further penalized by someone who's already penalized society? So that's another thing I guess Japan does a little bit better, is that in Japan they don't take a huge chunk of the taxpayers' money to kill somebody because they just let them know the day before. So they don't get like special treatment in a special area of the prison. They don't build a special board for them. They don't have special dinners for them the day before. There's nothing like that. It's just like, hey, wake up, surprise, you're gonna die today. Okay. Now what I will say does cost taxpayers a lot of money is, and people probably don't know this, is to make a room or to make a hanging device takes quite a lot of engineering. Probably many of you don't know this. This actually took a lot of research from me, but you need to figure out all different types of math and weight and proportion of body, because the neck will not snap the right way, the body will not hang the right way, the person will not die immediately when they fall if everything is not on point. So every prisoner is obviously going to be a different size and shape, and although the room that they'll be put in to be hung will almost always be the same, obviously the different and many types of body shapes will always change what somebody has to do to figure out the engineering to build the rope, to build the room, to build the hanging mechanism, etc., etc. And that costs taxpayers money. Now, very recently, and I am talking just in the last 2 weeks, there has been some discussion amongst politicians to remove the death penalty. And once again, I feel like I would be for this because the building of the room, the doing the engineering, the hiring the engineer does cost extra tax money. And I always just feel like, why? Why are we paying extra tax money to further, punish people to the point of death when keeping them alive is cheaper? I know that sounds strange, but it's true. Look up the actual money costs and statistics and everything. Keeping a prisoner alive is cheaper than putting them on death row or killing them, in both countries too. Japan, not nearly as much as America. America uses a massive amount of taxpayer money to actually give death row inmates quite actually a nice last few months or years of life that they stay in death row. Actually, some people want to be moved there. I've heard it's so nice for them. I'm not a type of person who says, no, we should give everybody a chance to be rehabilitated. There's some people who cannot be rehabilitated. There are some people who cannot be put back into some society. And there's some people who really, really deserve the death penalty. Those are the people who I feel like did some sort of murder or torture that went on for a long period of time, that cost a family a great deal of grief, that cost the victim a great deal of pain, that was inflicted upon a life not fully lived, such as a child, that corrupted a person's life, that corrupted a child's life. That's long lasting, and they themselves are in a prison. The very least we could do is give them solstice that the person who committed the horrible crime is gone. So I know a lot of people think they always say, oh, you bleeding heart, left-wing, liberal asshole, and I'm not. I'm not for legalizing every drug. I'm not for taking away everybody's guns. So yeah, the death penalty, and one of its most recent cases, which I guess I should bring up to kind of give you an example of when and how it's used. It was most recently used to execute a man after the Akihabara stabbings. Now you're like, wow, that's pretty fast that the guy from the Akihabara stabbings was executed. But no, they didn't actually execute him. They actually executed another guy who had been sentenced to death quite a long time ago. I think he had been sentenced to death 17 years ago. The people who had just suffered through the Akihabara stabbings, which if you don't know the whole situation, there was this crazy guy who drove a truck into Akihabara, ran over a bunch of people, got out of the truck and started stabbing people. He killed, I think, like 4 or 5 people, injured like 10 people, and was eventually caught and put in jail. He's sentenced to death. And I guess to appease other people that want Japan to be harsher on people who do stuff like this, they went ahead and hung a person who had been sentenced to death 17 years ago to be like, no, look, we're going to actually follow through with it. Here's an example of someone we're going to follow through with. So that really sucks for that guy. He had been dodging it for 17 years, and then suddenly, because the Akihabara stabbings, which have nothing to do with him or his case, happened, they said, oh, we got to look a lot more harsh. Let's kill this dude. I don't know, guys. How do you feel about the death penalty? Whenever I bring up very, very touchy topics like the death penalty, I'm very interested in hearing all of your opinions. Do you think the death penalty is necessary? If we don't have the death penalty, what should we replace it with? What would you do with someone who would murder again? You know for sure that they would get out of jail and murder again. Should we keep them in jail forever? Are life sentences too harsh? Is the death penalty too harsh? Is there certain types of the death penalty that are too harsh? For example, do you think the electric chair is okay, but maybe hanging's not? Or a firing squad's okay? Make sure if you are going to talk about those, you research them quite a bit. A lot of people think a firing squad is like literally just 5 people line up and shoot you, but actually it's very different from that. Almost everybody there except for one person has blanks in the gun, so no one actually takes the grief of having shot somebody, and no one knows who actually fired the death shot. And on top of that, the room is engineered in a way which the bullets can't ricochet and kill somebody else who's firing the gun. So really, research the stuff you're going to talk about. Don't just be like, I think the electric chair should come back. It's totally safe. Well, actually, read a couple cases where people caught on fire, or even injection, which sounds like it would be totally safe. You just inject somebody and they stop breathing. There's actually been cases where people have been horribly tortured because one drug set in before another, and it's a drug that makes every muscle in your body spasm, so like their own muscles broke their own back, and sent them into a paralytic shock. So just really research it if you are going to comment on it. But I do look forward to your comments. I do look forward to your input. Should Japan have a death penalty? If they should, what should they allow? If they shouldn't, why should they not? And if they shouldn't, what should they replace it with? Guys, thank you so much for all your support on this channel. If you can continue to help me by spreading the word, commenting, liking, and subscribing, you could help me out a ton. There's a lot of stuff going on in the JVlog world right now that's a little bit sketchy. I found out not only is YouTube algorithms unsubbing me, but apparently there's, I don't want to mention any names, but some other YouTubers who are using some kind of shady tactics to make some people lose subscribers. So if you could help me defend my channel against such situations, I would really appreciate it by spreading the word on places like Reddit, Instagram. I had a viewer who said that she spread my video on 40 different websites. That's, I hope I can shout her out, Mayumi. Thank you so much. If you could do what Mayumi did and spread me on 40 websites, my channel will grow faster than my dreams could even contain. Thank you so much for all your support so far. Until next time, I'm unrested with the questions you requested. This is JFAQ, Japan's frequently asked questions. Have a good one.